I think we've all heard about the decline in honeybees. In fact, all insects are hurting right now. But none have caught the eye of more people, I think, than the monarch butterfly. Children and adults, they all seem to know that bright orange butterfly. They know its name. They may not know much about it. They may not know what kind of habitat it requires or what kind of food it needs. But I think they're starting to learn more and more as this butterfly is posting its lowest numbers on record. So a lot of people are now planting for a purpose. They're planting native plants. And you can do that too. Just plan this winter. Think about a place where you can find a sunny spot in your yard where you can put some native plants. It doesn't take a lot of work, and it doesn't take a huge area. Now, I'd like to show you what I see almost on a daily basis at the stone house. We've got gardens there, native plants, and a meadow surrounding, full of native plants. It doesn't have to be that large a size for you, though. You can plant just a postage stamp size garden in your yard. That'll help. If everybody does that, it's one massive monarch habitat. And that's the idea. Don't make everyone mad by growing a bunch of weeds. No, you just need one nice spot for monarch habitat, which, by the way, also favors the bees. So enjoy what I'm going to show you here. It's a great story. I live it every year. I'm so lucky for that. And keep those insects healthy. Help them, because certainly their health is also a part of our health. We need them more than they need us. So think about putting a sunflower or milkweed or something out there and help the monarchs and the bees. Why pollinators? Why do we need them? And why are they important? Well, our choice of food would be limited without pollinators. Tomatoes, for example. The bees really need to get into those tomato flowers if we're going to have luscious summer tomatoes. And while bees aren't necessary for pollination in tomatoes, studies have shown that more and larger tomatoes are produced by bee power. Bees, such as bumblebees, they vibrate the tomato flower, releasing the pollen. Something, by the way, which the honeybee cannot do. Bees fly from flower to flower, passing pollen from one flower to the other, from dawn to dusk, while other pollinators, well, they work only after dark, like some of the moths, which fertilizes the flowers and produces seeds. It's essentially the birds and the bees. We've eliminated so many of the flowers they need and replaced them with so many flowers they can't recognize that now the pollinators are in trouble. We need to reintroduce native plants to their environment. Why native? Because local insects are adapted toward feeding on local plants. They may not recognize a plant from across the ocean, from another continent, even a different region. While there are generalists, insects which can feed from many kinds of plants, some plants require a special insects toolkit to be pollinated. Another very significant problem, a bumblebee's tongue may not be adapted to getting nectar from a plant of human design, one that is a hybrid, altered in color and or structure. Even the act of separating our garden plants and planting too few inhibits the attraction and the use by pollinators. So why pollinators? We enjoy the taste of different foods. Our bodies need food diversity. And by maintaining our diversity of pollinators, we can count on the same for our food sources. The answer? Plant native plants. And by planting them, pollinators benefit. We do too. It's gardening at its best. Nearing 2 decades ago, when the city of Twinsburg purchased the nearly 900 acres in Liberty Park, the sight of the stone house and meadow immediately drew my attention as a focal point. The land that is now the meadow consisted of agricultural fields that I had visions of transforming into natural habitat for all kinds of wildlife, complete with trails that could bring people up close and personal with the kind of wildlife and habitat that, quite frankly, isn't that common anymore. I could see the potential for grassland bird habitat, a hot topic then and now, as these bird species continue to decline. Looking back on it now, the reason we planted native wildflowers was to not only improve bird habitat, but also to introduce some color and beauty to enhance the perception of the drab, old field habitat. Native plants weren't being thought of to feed the pollinators at the time because, quite frankly, the term pollinators wasn't commonly being used. I certainly wasn't using the word, neither were my naturalist friends. It wasn't until people saw the economic impacts of the honeybee decline that the public actually paid attention or even cared about saving pollinators. Saving bird habitat had strong support, but bugs? Now, over a decade later, the world is finally realizing the importance of insects. And the meadow here at Liberty Park has grown into not just a meadow for birds, but a haven for a multitude of wildlife species, and especially pollinating insects. How successful has this plan been? Well, if you come out and spend a little time walking the meadow trails or perched on the observation deck, your eyes and ears will tell you. And if you time your visit just right, you might experience one of the most spectacular local displays of monarch butterflies you'll ever see. While the survival of the monarch migration depends on native plants, like the ones here in the meadow, that's only part of the equation. We also have to feed the young. And what's their only food source? Milkweed. There's a problem though. Some people reject the use of common milkweed in their gardens because of its aggressive nature. So I planned a fun project for myself, an experimental milkweed garden, to teach myself more about the many other native milkweeds that do well in our area and are less aggressive than the common milkweed. While this is still in the early stage of the experiment, so far swamp and world milkweed seem to be a big hit with the monarchs. Planting a milkweed garden is a great adventure, a garden that could easily become your very own secret garden. Besides a milkweed garden or a pocket meadow, there are other simple ways to introduce natural habitat into your yard. Native shrubs are a terrific way to introduce yourself to the idea of going native. In most cases, you just dig a hole and see what they attract. One of my favorites is buttonbush. It's been a popular hotspot here at the Stone House. It grows in wet or drier soils, has beautiful decorative foliage and flowers, and is extremely attractive to butterflies. Native trees have fallen out of favor, perhaps because they produce nuts and fruits that require cleanup. It's disappointing then that these are the same
fruits, nuts, and flowers so beneficial to nature's diversity. Oh, by the way, monarchs need trees too. Not a gardener? Try managing a brush pile, rock pile, or wood pile in your yard. A simple wood pile stacked up against the side of your garage is more than just a pile of rotting wood. It's an entire, ever-changing ecosystem. A pile of rocks? Not necessarily neatly stacked, even a jumble. The radiant heat stored in the rocks is so important for the survival of these cold-blooded animals. A dragonfly needs that shot of heat before going off for its next meal. You'll be amazed at the diversity of life on the rocks. A brush pile is a convenient way to provide protective habitat, a safe haven for songbirds during their long migration, which offers us a great opportunity for backyard birding. And if you're adventurous enough to keep a brush pile, I would highly recommend getting a packet of wild cucumber seeds and toss them around the sunny edges. It's a self-seeding, native annual. It's not only great for birds and insects, but crafters too. Getting started with native plants is not that difficult. All it takes is a little patience, some seed from a nursery dedicated to native plants, and then choosing a location. My favorite advice for getting started, and I say this all the time, get some seed. Toss it on the ground. Step on it. Tell it to grow. And walk away. Certainly this is simplified, maybe a little too general, but it's always worked for me. And as you've seen, it works for the monarchs too.
hope you've enjoyed this view of the Stonehouse Gardens and the meadow that surrounds it. It's been a great adventure, a great joy for me to add habitat, restore habitat for the insects and other wildlife here. Liberty Park offers a lot, and this is just one more enhancement for the wildlife that lives here. Now, consider what you've seen and think about your own property. Think about a small, sunny area where you can plant a few plants, something that the monarchs and the bees will benefit from. There are plenty of resources out there. It's not hard to find. You've got the library, you've got online resources. Just do it. And forget about it being huge. Just whatever you can manage. It will benefit. It will be planting for a purpose. And if we help those creatures that serve us, we are going to be so much better. Our quality of life will improve. And you know what? Just seeing a monarch fly over is good enough for me.